HP has not had an in-person international event. I think they said for 4 years. So this was kind of a real treat for a lot of the folks there. It was kind of funny though. I'm thinking I've been doing international trips for like 2.5 years. This is not new to me. So the element of being the first event, I did not capture that excitement, but I'm sure particularly the folks who are out of Asia, that literally they're still wearing masks in certain part of Asia, really enjoyed that. So there were tremendous amount of announcements on the product side, but I want to hit is kind of holistically, what was most interesting to me was the strategy that was laid out by CEO and President Enrique Lores. And I think it was important to bring this out more than motherhood and apple pie, but there are people, including analysts, that I go on my clown show with that are questioning HP's viability as a PC company, right? Because their market share went down, their supply chain, quite frankly, was broken. When you look at what Lenovo and Dell did related to supply chain, they did not get as hurt as HP did. Now we've seen on a market share basis, HP bounce back, and I think that was a positive. But I saw this as a reset. So Enrique got up and he talked about the vision of the company. He talked about the critical trends that they're trying to address. But here's the strategy, right? The first thing was modernizing the core, and what that means is, hey, the PC user model is changing. We need to modernize along with that. If nothing else, and looking at new use cases like hybrid work, we literally for a decade didn't care about the camera. I mean, it was probably a $2.50 camera that went into notebooks. That's woefully inadequate when you're trying to operate business and use it as a substitution for being face to face. He also talked about services, and he did. I think Dave Scholl got up there and recognized, hey, we've been talking about getting into services forever. What's different this time? I did appreciate the focus on lifetime value of the customers. And I do appreciate that end users are more open than ever to having things like paying a monthly subscription fee, all you can eat service setup, and a help desk. That's a slow roll right now, but I think it's an inevitable future when I look at people's comfort of using services for IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS, and quite frankly, the consumerization of as a service as well. He talked about expanding into adjacencies, gaming, hybrid work. And I loved the factoid that says 90 million rooms out there, only 10% are video enabled. And by the way, in the conference rooms I've been in, the 10% that were enabled had crappy cameras that couldn't separate people to give the remote worker a good idea, a much more fulfilling experience at the workplace. He hit on new categories, industrial print, 3D printing, and he cited metal as one of the big breakthroughs where you could imagine making short order car parts. Maybe not fixing Bluetooth, Daniel, but doing the basic hard to find metric bolts based on different type of metal. He talked a lot about, he called it innovate with purpose, which is a shorthand for ESG and DEI. The company, and in this executive Q&A we had with a few other analysts, they were very clear. They believe that the company can differentiate and win business, and actually cited $3 billion of business they won based on their superior environmental posture. And I'm a little bit, let's say, suspect of that, but I want to see the data myself. I can see that absolutely happening in the Nordic countries. I don't know how widespread it is. Talked about operations, future-ready operations. I was glad that they spent a lot of time on this, talking about operations and supply chain, because it was just a huge area. They're looking at ERP consolidation. They're looking at the quote to cash. I think they said was 2x faster than it was last year. And then finally, future-ready teams, and they talked about having keeping a trustworthy company, being transparent with the negatives, which I like, and they really kind of put a ribbon around the whole theme that I saw. Three of the two business leaders and Enrique said we're going on offense, and to me that was shorthand for, hey, we've got our supply chain challenges fixed, we've got the right team. We are doubling down on innovation, particularly innovation that is our full solutions as opposed to just point hardware products. And I'm a really big fan of MemoryX and what the Poly acquisition. I want to give it a little bit more time before I can say that they did it and they're done. I mean, you're never done, but my biggest question that I had was, hey, how do you know this is working? These acquisitions and these solutions. How do you know that they wouldn't have been just as good if they were kept alone, standalone, and best of breed? So I'll leave it at that. It was a wild 24 hours, and it was good to go to a show with my bestie.
Yeah, it was good to get out there. It had been a few years since HP had an event in person, and it was really nice that the leadership team waited for you and I to arrive late to have their little executive Q&A for the analysts. I thought, the company, they had a lot of different focuses. I think they were focused in on growth, focused on supply chain. I think they said a few things that jarred some of the analysts and even the partners about not seeing growth. I remember in one of the media, was kind of how Enrique had sort of forecasted out that they may not grow this year. And everybody was like, whoa, what do you mean you're not going to grow this year? But I mean, I think everybody kind of knows personal systems and print are going to be their next big boom cycle is probably a year or two out after the huge cycle that was driven by the pandemic. I thought it was very generous of them to spend time. And, I asked them a question about sustainability and differentiation. I thought it was good that the company was able to truly put together a metric-driven response to the impact of its policies on driving revenue for the company. I'd love to kind of see exactly how that was figured and analyzed. But truth is, Pat, you and I have endlessly on this show said, we're not anti-sustainability or climate. We're just anti-bullshit. We're anti-greenwashing. We're anti-coming up with just numbers because or policies that are 20 or 30 years out into the future that no one's going to ever hold you accountable for. So I actually really found that to be refreshing. I think, a couple other things that I really took away, besides just enjoying, a skyline view of my old city was, the market for the personal system is really pretty large and robust. And for a company like HP that's seeded some market, there's an opportunity to recapture some of that market. They flashed a $560 billion TAM for personal systems next year. So that's a very large number. If the company can execute and start building, with all the focus on hybrid work, the acquisition of Poly, some of the hybrid work technology and systems, they need to get that right. They need to be able to basically walk in and say, this acquisition, the integration of all these tools, the ability to deliver hybrid work. And I thought the company did some good work around the hybrid experience, even just in the general sessions, Pat. They brought Adina Friedman on, the CEO of NASDAQ, and did it as a hybrid interview with one person on stage, one person on. And that's not a new thing, but the ability to do it in a way that felt really engaging and immersive while not having someone live was pretty impressive. I also thought the company did a nice job of sort of featuring its various partner ecosystem. Of course, it was great to see Dr. Lisa Su go on stage. She always makes for a great interview, very direct, very to the point. I imagine working for her is one of the most no BS experiences you'll ever get.
Man, I love that. I loved I mean, she was the nuances that she had. Maybe this is just because I've known Lisa. I worked with Lisa when I was at
Yes.
AMD. Really came out strong. I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really enjoyed both the Lisa Su and the Adina Friedman interviews. The CEO of NASDAQ, I tweeted something that she talked about, with leadership that really hit home with me. And it actually has, gone with me. Probably the one other thing, Pat, that really was worth chatting about was just, and you kind of alluded to this, was just the massive opportunity around meeting spaces. I feel like because of things like Zoom and Teams, WebEx, we've gotten to this sort of place in our minds that we think every room is now a meeting room. And to some extent it is, but when you put 10 people in a room, you can't have 10 people all on different Zooms. So the individual experience opportunity is such a big one to fill. And that's something I think that Poly acquisition, but because only 10% of rooms at this point worldwide, they think there's about 90 million. And our team at my Wayne House, one of the acquisitions I made, has confirmed this with our market sizing data. There's only about 10% that are actually outfitted. And that means there's that's something like 81 million rooms that could potentially be outfitted with more advanced technology to create more human, high quality, equitable conversations that could be driven, for future workspaces. And by the way, those spaces are going to have to work that way in the future, because I can assure you of one thing. While we have gone back to 120% of our events, Pat, we're only going to go back to probably about 50, 60% of office, office and full-time office utilization. I think we're going to make people go back more frequently, but the way they go back will be different.